I'm here speaking with Joe Sepi as part of NodeConf EU's Fireside chat. I'm Katie Roberts from the BBC. It's great to meet you. I was wondering if we could start by getting you to do a little bit of an introduction about who you are.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Nice to meet you as well. As you said, my name is Joe Sepi. I work for IBM. I've been there about 3 years. I joined with StrongLoop and am currently an open source engineer and developer advocate. And I primarily focus on Node.js, the community and the project, and Node in the foundation. I am also the chair of the cross-project council in the newly formed OpenJS Foundation. And I am also a representative for IBM at the TC39.
Wow, okay. Well, you mentioned the OpenJS Foundation there. Would you be able to go into a little bit more detail about what that is and what it does?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So earlier, I guess last year at Node plus JS Interactive, we announced the intent to merge the JS Foundation and the Node.js Foundation.
Yeah.
And early in 2019, earlier this year, we completed that merger. And there was a bootstrap committee from people from both foundations that worked on, figuring out the governance and how, they operated similarly, but there were differences, and we figured out how to make it all work together and pull the two foundations together, which has been really exciting. I think we have over 30 projects. We have 2 new projects already since announcing, NVM and the AMP project.
Right.
And we have a few more that are in the initial phases of incubation that we'll be excited to announce when we are able to. But yeah, just lots of exciting work. The Cross-Project Council, which as I mentioned I'm the chair of, we meet every Tuesday. And we've just been making a lot of progress on like the onboarding process and working out different details of governance and things like that. But it's very exciting, and I encourage everyone to, if they have any interest in this sort of work, foundation work and governance and generally trying to help support a community and foster sort of growth in that ecosystem, to get involved. Everyone's welcome to join the call and participate. And we work openly in GitHub, and it's a very approachable process, and we love having new people get involved.
Okay, that's great. So you mentioned that you work for IBM. Does IBM have a history in working with open source?
We do. We have a long history in open source. Yeah, and it's fantastic. I've been there for 3 years and have primarily worked in the open source space, but we have a rich history in open source, starting with like the Linux Foundation, which I believe we helped kind of bootstrap and get started. Similar with the Eclipse Foundation. Some of this dates back to the late 90s. The Apache Software Foundation. In fact, I feel very fortunate because I have a weekly meeting with some of my colleagues that are involved in the OpenJS Foundation. Michael Dawson, who is the chair of the TSC of the Node project, Node platform. Chris Hiller, who's the maintainer of Mocha. Nick O'Leary, who is the maintainer of Node-RED. This call started as we were working through the merger, because we wanted to take advantage of the experience and the experience overall of folks in IBM who have gone through this process. And so we meet with my manager, Dan Bandera, who is the president of the OSGI Alliance. And then a couple levels up, the VP of OpenTech is Todd Moore, and he's the chair of the OpenJS Foundation and the chair of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And then, as I mentioned, Sam Ruby is the president of the Apache Software Foundation. So we all get together weekly and talk about the work that we're doing. And what I love about it too is that, of course we all work for IBM, and that's sort of in the back of our mind, but the discussions are focused around like, what's best for the community, and what have we learned in the past, and what do we think is going to work moving forward. And so it's really productive, and it's been, I feel very fortunate to be in this situation and work at IBM and to be able to do all this open source work.
Okay, so a couple of times there you've mentioned the open source community. So could you tell me what the importance of the open source community is and what it means to you?
Yeah, I mean, open source I think is at the community is at the core of open source. If you don't have the community, then who's doing it, right? But I think especially in like Node.js and JavaScript, we have a very passionate ecosystem community that's, everybody is really engaged and involved and passionate about the work that we do. And I think it's part of the, explosive growth of Node overall and the success of the work that's being done in the space. I think open source needs a good community to be successful.
And how would you encourage somebody such as myself to become involved in that open source community?
Sure, there's lots of ways to get involved, and I want to emphasize that being involved and being a contributor doesn't always mean code. As I've talked about, there's sort of this open governance work that's ongoing. There's a variety of ways that you can get involved, whether it's like helping triage issues, or even like design support for different assets and materials that may be needed. But in terms of code, there's usually a good first issue label in GitHub. Actually, GitHub has a lot of tooling that helps first-time contributors. So if you search, GitHub and contributing, you probably find a few of their resources. They're really helpful there. But I'll also just add that in the Node space, we try to do as much as we can in the open, which is primarily in GitHub, as well as open meetings that are published to YouTube, as well as the meeting notes published to GitHub. And it's easy to kind of see what's going on and get involved, even just to observe and sort of get a feel for it. But just we're regular people, just see what interests you and reach out to someone. And there's really a variety of ways if you have an interest.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just as a final wrap-up question, I just wanted to know, what have been your highlights of the conference so far?
Oh, let's see. It's a really great conference, and I've really been enjoying it. What are my highlights? I think Anna's talk, where she is live coding a feature in the C++ internals of Node.js. I mean, I've tried to live code before, and it doesn't always work out so well.
I've got in my notes that she is the bravest person in the world.
Yeah, I had a tweet along the same lines, but she's fantastic too. She's I've had the good experience of working with her in the past, and she's always been very generous and with her time and her knowledge, and supportive and encouraging. She's really great. We're fortunate to have her be involved in the project. Beth's talk, she's my colleague at IBM, but her talk this morning, like going through the history of Node and the rich history as well as the development of the platform was really great. And Jan's talk yesterday was really funny and also had some great history in it as well. So many great talks, really good workshops too. I'm in the middle of the Node Red workshop, which is going swimmingly. I'm excited about the watches that we can hack on.
Yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, I've got a 10-year-old at home, and I'm like, oh, we can, start coding on it and stuff. Yeah. So it's all very exciting.
Okay, well that's great. Thank you ever so much for your time. This has been really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to do it.